Countdown? Okay.
Hey everyone, we're going to be going live on broadcast in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening and welcome to the 46th meeting of fiscal year 2025 for the Milton Planning Board. At this time, I would like to now call the meeting to order and begin by with our introductions of the board and our staff. If we'd like to start, Cheryl.
Cheryl Tagayas, member, actually secretary.
You're both.
Oh, yes.
Sean Fahey, member.
Meg Gilfield, member.
Jim Davis, member.
And Meredith Hall serving as chair. And this evening with us on Zoom, we have our staff, Cheyenne
Frazier, Assistant Director of Planning.
and Julia. Don't know if Julia is with us tonight. So, all right, we will now move to our administrative items. We don't have any minutes to approve this evening, so we will defer that. Our next meeting dates, we actually have town meeting, which is this coming Monday, the 16th. And then if that does not conclude, it'll be then the 17th. And then following that, the next regular scheduled meeting will be June 26th. So those are the upcoming meeting dates. And so now, Cheyenne, did you have any update?
So I have one update and one just logistical thing. I don't have access to the host privileges for all of the screen sharing and everything, just for Milton Access TV. And then more of like a update. There was a Chamber of Commerce meeting today, which was really nice to meet with all of the businesses and update them on our planning, agendas, and town meeting. We had tons of questions about East Milton Square zoning and MBTA community zoning, all of which the planning board is putting forth next week at town meeting. So that's just one update. Actually, that's the only update. Yep.
Great. Perfect. So next we have citizens speak. If anyone would like to say anything that is not part of the public hearing on the zoning articles, you can either, if you're online, raise your hand, or raise your hand if you're in the audience. But everyone will be allowed to speak on each of the different 4 zoning articles. Anyone in the audience here? And any hands up, Cheyenne?
No one on Zoom.
No one on Zoom. Okay, great. So with that, it is after 7:05, so we can open the public hearing for the zoning articles. Which are the 4 following: the East Milton Square Mixed Use Overlay District, the floodplain map, the MBTA Communities Adjacent Community Plan, and the MBTA Communities Multifamily Overlay District Citizens Petition. Tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to go through each of the zoning articles. I want to allow at least a half an hour for each of the different articles. If members want to speak to that, I would ask that anyone from the public or online who would like to speak, if you could, just to allow everyone an opportunity to be able to speak, if you could just limit your comments to 3 minutes, please, unless you have asked for additional time. The other thing is if we don't conclude, because the first 2 are probably less controversial, if we move through those quickly, we'll have more time for the last 2 articles. So with the East Milton Square Mixed Use Overlay District, if anyone would like to speak to this in the public, please raise your hand or on Zoom. Raise. That the information is online. Cheyenne, any hands up that you're seeing for the East?
No hands on Zoom.
Okay, great. Next, we have the floodplain map, which is basically updating the current floodplain map that we have and adding some additional slight language changes. Is there anyone who would like to speak from the public on the floodplain map zoning article? Any hands up online?
None online.
Okay, great. Thank you. Hopefully town meeting goes as, as efficiently. So next we have the MBTA Communities Adjacent Community Plan, sponsored by the Planning Board. If anyone would like to speak to that, please feel free to raise your hand and join us. Yes, if you'd like to step forward. And if you could just state your name and address for the record. Great. And the microphone, yes, please have a seat. Thank you.
My name is Joe Mazzotta, precinct 2. I live on Capon Street, 106 Capon Street. So I've sent a bunch of letters in. I've done support for everybody. So here's something that I want to say. So I'm in favor of the 10% plan, but I can't ignore the fact that we probably should have a vetted 25% plan in case we need to have it. So my question or my drive is, the 25% plan needs to be equitable. Currently, the latest plan that I looked at, it's far from equitable. I saw that there were 1,600 units on the Elliott Street, Blue Hill Parkway, which accounts for 62% of the total living units out of the 2,500. And also the 50% we can have offsite away from the trolley. We're not even using that capacity. So a couple questions I had is on the Elliott Street corridor and Blue Hills, why are we omitting neighborhoods to the south of Elliott Street? And that's like particular, like Norway, and I know Norway Road isn't to the south, but that's closest to me. Like that whole neighborhood we're omitting. And my reason why I'm asking this question was currently we're zoning for 6,000 square feet for, I think it's 3 families, last I checked. So if we included some additional neighborhoods, and I never want to speak for somebody else's neighborhood because I don't want people to speak for my neighborhood, but I'm just throwing thought out there. If we include additional neighborhoods, maybe that 6,000 feet goes up to like 7,500 square feet, and we zone 3 families for that. And in Capon Street alone, 41 properties touch Capon Street. Out of those 41 properties, 39 of them can be redeveloped according to the current plan. That's just, that's crazy. To me, it's crazy. I'm sorry. So another thing is I've sent letters in and I've seen you guys have responded to my letters in the plan. You know, you omitted 4 families, which, you know, I saw, and thank you very much. But I feel like there should be more feedback, like, and I'm not political, so I don't know how it works, but there should be more like citizens interaction to maybe, you know, help move it forward. And I know you guys have limited time and you already spend a ton of time. And for that, I commend you. But I just think there needs to be more involvement and not just people come up to the microphone and say, I'm in favor of the 10% plan. I don't want 25%. I mean, we have to be realistic. Just a couple other things is, so again, I live on Capon Street, 39 properties to develop. Where is all that parking going to go? Like that's 37 minus, there's 4 families. So 33 times 2 additional units, 66 plus the 1 additional unit for each 4 families. So that's 70 units on Capon Street times, I think the average is like 1.5 or 1.8 cars per household. We're talking 150 extra cars on a quarter-mile dead-end street. And people are going to say, it's not all going to be developed. I know it's not going to be developed. I agree. But tell me how much is going to be developed. Like, we don't have that answer. So my concern is we need to put some guardrails in just to keep things so they're equitable for everybody. Look what happened in Lexington, right? They had to stop their plan because everybody came in and started building. So I'm in favor of the 10% plan, but I think we need to get a viable 25% plan that's equitable for the whole town and that we all can sign off on, and everybody's going to have to give a little bit to get this plan through if that's where we end up going. One other thing, the Verizon building, the red building up Adams Street, why is that being left out of the plan? And then the last thing I'll say is the last 2 things, Cunningham and the half-mile radius around the Elliott Street corridor, Capon, and all the way down to Milton Station, like we're missing, and I know what the properties are. I'm well aware of it, but there's still opportunity on some of those dead-end streets going by Valley Road and just past there. I feel like we're not taking advantage of every opportunity that we have. That's all.
Thank you.
But I appreciate all you guys.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else from the audience who would like to speak on the 10% plan? Yeah. Right.
Thank you.
Good evening. Welcome.
Good evening, Thomas Doherty, Adams Street, Milton. Uh, The State Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities has maintained Milton's classification as a rapid transit community in its recently reformulated regulations. Therefore, it's no surprise that HLC states that Milton's alternative does not comply with HLC's regulations. As an adjacent community, they reject that and require 25% of multifamily zoning based on HLC's subway station regulation. The public statements continue to be made that Milton must adopt a multifamily zoning plan with a multifamily unit capacity equal to 25% of the total housing capacity, because folks state, quote, "that is the law," close quote. But such statements could influence town members and residents' views. And to address that, the planning board, I think, could do the following, which is referenced in the handout here. And I suggest that the planning board could inform town council and the town administrator that the planning board will publish the following proposed motion prior to town meeting and will present it at the onset of the town meeting if the planning board so chooses. It would be that accordingly, the town council should be prepared to advise the town meeting attendees for the first time in years that this has been pending, orally and in writing, of town council's answers, yes or no, to the following statements. 1, under the express wording of Chapter 48, Section 3A of the Massachusetts General Laws and its Regulation 760 CMR 72081C, the town of Milton has the legal right to choose to adopt a multifamily zoning plan that provides for a district in which multifamily zoning is permitted as of right, without age restrictions and suitable for families with children, having a minimum gross density of 15 units per acre based upon the fact that Milton has developable land, quote, located not more than 0.05 miles from a commuter rail station. Yes or no from the town council. 2, under Regulation 760 CMR 72081A, 0% of the multifamily zoning district must be located within a half mile, 0.5 miles of a commuter rail station, unless Milton is deemed to also have subway stations located in the town of Milton. Yes or no? 3, even if Milton trolley stops were deemed to be, quote, subway stations, Milton nevertheless has the right, as stated above, to choose to base its multifamily zoning plan on the fact that Milton has developable land located not more than 0.5 miles from a commuter rail station. And under Regulation 760 CMR 72081A, 50% of the multifamily zoning district must be located within a half mile of commuter rail stations, and the other half can be anywhere else. That, I think, would be helpful to those who say that it is the law that we must comply with 25%. I disagree. And I think the answers to these questions from town council would have some important impact on the matter. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's see if is there anyone online who would like to speak on the adjacent plan? What are the Zoom
No hands.
folks? No hands on that, okay. Then we can keep going with anyone else who from the public who would like to come and speak? Yes, yes.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Meredith.
Yes,
How are
Bill.
you?
Good. A fellow Historic Commission member.
I don't have any prepared materials or anything else, and I have one question. Well, I'll give a little bit of a prelude to it.
Okay.
My understanding,
Say,
Mhm.
sorry, full name
Can we
and
just
address.
get your
my
name
full
and
name
address?
is,
Yeah.
my full name is Bill Mullen, and I live at 36 Elliott Street. So I am concerned about this, but give you a little bit of a prelude to this question. The legislature has been very much involved in this particular process, and I have to be honest with you, I'm not happy with the way they handled it. And I think I've expressed this to a few of you already. And I've been disappointed in what happened in the Senate and in the House. And a lot of this can be traced to not maybe doing due diligence when that particular law was passed, but we're past that now. However, with that said, my understanding is that Senator Driscoll has talked to you folks, and I think some of you have expressed, I think, some strong support for him because he is working within the halls of the Senate to get some support to maybe amend this particular law. And I haven't heard anything about this in recent weeks or anything. So I'm wondering if you folks could at some point, I know you don't have to answer it now, obviously, but I would hope that at some point before the town meeting, we get a handle on what Senator Driscoll has to offer. Has he made any progress in the Senate? Has he got the support of the president? Has he got support of any other people who have been opposed to the act itself? And what if he has, then what's his plan to go before the House, where the Speaker of the House has already expressed opposition to any changes in it? So I do want to hear, you know, his opinion on this, and I was wondering if at some point you could give an update. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Bill. Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak on the adjacent 10% plan? Yes, welcome. Good evening.
My name is Milton Oblitz, and I live at 59 Concord Avenue in Milton. And I understand concerns about the heavy loading on Capon Street of Article 5. At the same time, I want to thank you, members of the zoning board. It's been a lot of work, and I think you've put a lot of consideration into drafting Article 5. And perhaps there would be some room for amendment of that, but I would urge members of the town meeting, any who are listening, that they would support Article 5 at the June 16th special town meeting. I think that's an important step forward. I hear some people say, well, but we're a rapid transit community. And certainly some elected state officials and members of the EOHLC have stated or made the claim that Milton is a rapid transit district because a few stops of the Mattapan Ashmont trolley are in Milton. But I suspect these same officials have rarely, if ever, ridden the Mattapan Ashmont trolley. And I just want to speak as someone who has commuted probably more than anyone alive on the MBTA from Milton to the city of Boston or Cambridge over the last 38 years. And it's untenable that we are a rapid transit community. That's untenable. That in certain ways, historic Ashmont Mattapan trolley is different. That look, it goes
a fixed distance from an outlying community, Mattapan, if you will, to not even downtown Boston, unlike the Braintree line of the red line, the Braintree branch of the red line, or the orange line, or the green line, or the blue line. They start with outlying areas and go downtown. But that's not the case. And then there's a layover for some amount of time in Ashmont. That's a very different thing. It's a historic trolley, and it's absolutely incorrect to say that we're a high rapid transit community based on this trolley. And I could even speak from personal experience. One of my coworkers would commute in regularly from the Providence Stoughton commuter rail from Pawtucket Central Falls Station. And I would come in from Milton, and we would laugh how he would get in there much more rapidly from Pawtucket than I would from Milton to the place of work in Boston. I could give another example, practical experience. For the past 10 years, I've tried to avoid taking the Mattapan Ashmont trolley and walking into Mattapan, taking the buses, MBTA buses, and then the Orange Line from Forest Hills downtown. And that is much quicker much of the time. And I think anyone who's claiming, again, we're a rapid transit district, that's because of this trolley, historic trolley, it's just unfounded. And I would say that the Article 5, it may not be perfect, and it will fall on people, especially in Capon Street and part of Elliott.
Meredith, we're at 3 minutes here.
Okay, thank you, Julia.
Okay,
Yeah, but thank you.
but I urge you to
wrap up.
vote for Article 5. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Anyone else from the public who would like to speak on this, on Article 5? Anyone on Zoom?
No one on Zoom.
Okay, great. Thank you. So just to briefly, I think we can just pause before we go on to the next to answer just a few of the questions that folks have asked. The first gentleman who spoke, with his concerns, a lot of that, what you were referring to, is in the 25% plan. And I think that's what we struggled with exactly. Trying to minimize the impact to the Elliott Street corridor was something that we looked at. And because that is where the transportation lines lie. And we also struggled to look to move it to other areas of town. What we ran into is when you look at a larger lot size, let's just say Fuller Village, for example, when we look at other areas that had multifamily housing, the land area was so large that to get the average of 15 units per acre, we would have to zone for, 1,200 units or 800 units, extremely high numbers on those sites. So those did not make sense. And we had a list of criteria that we went through, sort of evaluating, various walkability, proximity to the transit, a whole list of items. But we struggled with that. And I think that's why we did land on looking at the 25, but we just still saw the impact, and there would be no conclusion of what the costs would be and the financial impacts. We just don't have that information. So I don't want to speak for the rest of the members. And Bill, just to answer your question, so we have not gotten I haven't heard a recent update from Bill Driscoll. I know he had made a presentation on the floor, which was most people were able to see. And he withdrew that because he did not want it to fall short and fail. So I think he is still working. And my understanding in talking to Representative Wells is there are more people becoming aware of the issues that that Milton is having, and understanding that it's not that we don't want to do anything, that we don't want zoning, because I think that was sort of the reputation that was given to Milton early on, is that just they won't accept anything, which we really feel like this 10% plan will demonstrate that we do want to contribute but do it in a way that's balanced and the right thing for Milton. So I don't know if that answers. I don't have a most recent update from Yeah, but I can try to maybe get something to have. I don't know if Senator Driscoll will come to town meeting. Again, he may and be able to address that then. So. That's
May I
the only-
just
yeah,
add a
if there's
couple
other one-
comments to the first speaker?
Yeah,
The compliance model, which is what was issued as regulations by HLC, sets out a lot of different requirements that are interrelated. And so it needs to have, by the law itself, 15 units an acre, but the regulations allow for 15 units an acre on average. And so when looking at how to disperse that so that there's the allowed units or the allowed size of buildings would be comparable to what's in the neighborhood. We looked at where we have multifamily and where we have larger buildings. But the regulations require us to have continuity of the districts and a certain amount of acreage. And this is in the 25% only. The 10% doesn't have any relationship to the trolley because it's tied to the adjacent community, which is the commuter rail. So the choice to put the districts, it really is anywhere. So it's a planning board decision on where to put them. And there is a district still in the 10% in the Elliott Street corridor. But on the 25, there's no choice about that. That's a requirement just to have some there. So the way it was looked at was, well, how do we keep the density in that area at a compatible level to what's already there? And how do we still achieve the 15 units an acre? So I just wanted to say there's a lot of questions about why certain areas were omitted because we made the choice. The definition of multifamily is 3 units in a building on a parcel or more than one building with more than one unit on a parcel. So translate that as 2 buildings with 2 units on a parcel. So the way we could do the least amount is 3 units on a parcel. And the larger the parcels are with only 3 units, if the density is low. So when you make that and you have to equal that out on average, that means you have to have high density somewhere else. And what we found in 2023 was people didn't like high density someplace else. They didn't like so much. So it needed to be a balance. So if you're looking at the lot sizes in the Elliott Street corridor and why one size versus another, it has a lot to do with getting to that average density of 15 units an acre. And then the other thing I want to point out is our existing zoning doesn't have all the protections or all the kinds of standards that are in both of these articles. Our existing zoning doesn't have something called an FAR restriction, which is a floor area ratio. And what that does is it limits the size of the building. This ratio times the size of the lot limits to how big the building can be. And that doesn't exist in our single family zoning today. So that's why we see some really large houses on some what look like pretty small lots because it's allowed in our current zoning. So it's more restrictive in this zoning. It's in the Elliott Street corridor, it's targeted really at about 1,000 square feet a unit, which is what the compliance model requires. So the largest buildings generally are in that 3,000 or to 3,500 square feet for 3 units. It also has a requirement in this zoning, which our current zoning doesn't have, for open space. The current zoning doesn't have an open space requirement on our single family properties, but both of these articles do, and requires a 40% to open space. So we're using these zoning tools to facilitate these multifamily in a scale that's comparable to the existing. And I just want to explain that a little bit because it's very, yeah.
So can I ask a question?
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're gonna,
yeah.
yeah, come on up.
You can come to the mic so.
So the audience can hear you. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe Mazzata, Precinct 2, Cable Street. So your definition of a multifamily is what you just said. And then, multiple buildings, either 3 units or more, or multiple buildings with 2 units, right? I think that's what I heard. And then you said you're zoning in areas that already have existing structures. Cable Street only has 3 2-families. So you're gonna have zoning of 39 out of 41 properties because they have 3 out of 41 properties are existing 2-families?
The definition of three-family comes from the state.
No,
So,
I know.
So-
gotcha.
We have in the 25%, we're a rapid transit community, we have no choice about zoning parts of the area at Capon Street and along that area because it's within a half a mile of the trolley.
Totally agree, but there's also area within a half mile that you didn't zone, and I understand the lot size, but I went online and the lot sizes on south of Elliott Street, Cantwell, I can't remember, I live there, I can't remember the streets and I live there. All the streets south as you're going towards Central Ave on the right, they're zoned 1 house in and then it stops. Norway Road, Cliff Road, same lot sizes, same exact thing, no zoning up there. And I'm not looking to zone there because if I get zoned, they get zoned. But if you can move that 6,000 square feet for a 3-family up to like 7,500 or 7,000, like even an inch, it will help. Like, I mean, I want the 10% plan and, and I want housing, additional housing in Milton, but I just feel like the tide is not in our favor, if maybe I can say that. I just feel like recent events has things swinging the other way and everybody has their opinion. I'm totally for that, but I'm sure if we went through it, we could tweak it and find out, I mean, I would think we could tweak it and find out additional things. I mean, I know you guys do a ton of work. I watched every meeting. You guys are here late. I just think if we don't have guardrails in place, one person said to me, what do you think? There are people waiting at the border of Milton to come in and build? No, I don't think there are people waiting, but neither did Lexington. And if you're the one person who happens to be next to 2 zone properties, I mean, it's kind of, it's kind of too bad, right? The Pandora's box, it's already too late.
One thing I'll say about whether someone's going to redevelop a property, I've taken a look at some of the properties and trying to help determine what are the right FARs and some of these other requirements. And some of the buildings are already more than 3,000 square feet. So you're not allowed to build more. And in some cases, if you build a new building, you have to build it smaller than what you have. And so it's not a sure thing that all of the properties are really going to make sense.
I agree with you 100%.
To do. It's hard to do. There's over 300 parcels in the Elliott Street corridor, so it's hard to analyze, at least for me as a volunteer, each one. But I have analyzed, ones at different sizes. And, the configuration of the property, how wide it is to how deep it is will impact whether it makes sense also. And I would say that the one thing that variable of that minimum lot size is a big driver of the density. And so that's where, when we look at folks we hear from in other districts who said, well, 40 units an acre or 45 units an acre, that's a lot. Why that here? Well, it's because we have to hit the average of 15. So if you have your higher minimum lot size at 7,500 like it was in 2023, it means fully half of the lots don't qualify, which means there'll be less development, but it also drives the density even lower. So it means it's 40, it's 45 or more in another district in order to get the average. And so the wider you bring that boundary out, the more you're intensifying that problem.
Right.
And you're
Maybe
getting
the number
more.
is 7,500, maybe it's 6,500, right? Or maybe instead of 62% of the house added units in Capon Street, maybe Randolph Ave has to have that extra development on the left. I'm just saying like everybody has to give. It just can't be say, well, Elliott Street corridor, Blue Hill Parkway, well, they're in the corridor anyways. So they'll just, they'll have to take the brunt. And I know that's not what you think. I'm not saying that's what you think. I'm just saying like mathematically, that's how it's working out.
So can I just say one other thing is I agree with you completely about the inadequacy of having this discussion at this format.
Mhm.
I have talked about that for a very long time and have advocated for other ways to do this in a Q&A in a town hall format, and also having consultants available who can, over the 2 or 3 years, I've learned a lot about this compliance model and how these things pull and push each other. But, they're the experts who work with the model itself. And it's, we are at this point with this deadline in July. But I would say this, zoning can be amended. And we all know that there's no perfect, we've never had a zoning that I've been on the board, which is over 10 years, where it hasn't come back and been amended at some point, because we just learned something. I mean, like you mentioned Lexington, but we learned things here too ourselves, that there was something in that zoning that after it passed that we hadn't contemplated. And so that lot size and that kind of, if that tug is something else that continues to need to be studied, it can continue to be studied. And it can continue to be studied while we're compliant as well.
If we're amending something, though, probably means we're too late for something that already happened, you know what I'm saying? If we're amending for a reason, so what would that reason be? Overbuilding or whatever it may be, whatever it is, whatever we would amend the zoning for, unfortunately, something already happened to drive us there.
I feel an obligation to weigh in on this. Cheryl and I have had pretty spirited discussions about Cheryl's suggestion that this can be amended. I see tremendous roadblocks and barriers to amending anything that the state has forced so hard upon Milton. And once we have a compliance model that they accept, whatever it is, I don't see a lot of flexibility with amending. I agree with Cheryl, if it's zoning that Milton has controlled, that Milton has established over years, sure. Zoning that we create in town, we have flexibility to amend our own zoning. This zoning, and Cheryl and I we had a spirited discussion in the warrant committee meeting. I do not see this as, a zoning plan that there is really any flexibility to amend. It's so restrictive. If we walked you through the compliance model and how difficult it is to achieve what's been achieved here, to create a compliance model, either of these are difficult to follow. It's an Excel formatted model that has a series of connected formulas that you have to fall within. It's very, very difficult. And I can't see, just imagine there's 177 communities that are being asked to comply with something. Why is the state going to allow Milton to adjust their compliance model? And that would open up the door for 176 others. I'm not, I've said it enough, in previous meetings, I just don't see that as a pathway. And I say that because I don't want the public to have this notion that, we can change this if it doesn't work out. It was said by a member of the select board in a meeting between the select board and the planning board. And specifically what that select board member said, this isn't set it and forget it, suggesting that you could change it. That, in fact, is not true. It is set it, and it likely is going to stay fixed. We don't have a lot of flexibility with this. If we pass a zoning article and the state, forces us into whatever compliance we're going to be forced into, we're going to live with it. And I say this not because Cheryl and I agree on many things, and we also disagree on many things. But I don't want, for this meeting to occur, for you to walk away from the table and for the audience to think that we have flexibility to make changes. I don't see it.
So I would just say that Lexington did make changes to their zoning, and they made them still within compliance with their requirements in the compliance model. So we won't be able to change what the compliance model requires of us, but we can change how our plan works with that model as long as we still remain compliant. In order for us to do that, we would continue to need to work with a consultant like you, Teal.
If it took us this long to get compliant, we vote on it, it's a yes. We're good. I feel like the difficulty to change it and stay compliant is non-existent. That's just my thought. And Lexington was able to change it because I think they oversubscribed.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
because they oversubscribed, they're able to do that. Listen, there's different opinions in this room, and nobody has the answer, and we're trying to work to the best answer. I don't know what that is, but, I just feel like, Blue Hill Parkway, Elliott Street corridor has a high probability of changing immensely over the next handful of years if the 25% plan becomes law. This is my opinion.
So a couple things. I only quickly observed today that there was an article, and it was only on my Google feed, so I don't know how accurate it is, but it said how rentals in the suburbs are increasing. So I share your concern about that. And rentals in suburbs are increasing because of the expense in downtown Boston. Boston didn't. We're being forced to fix a problem that Boston has created, and I do think that's unfair. I share your concern about where the parking is going. I know this is all transit-oriented development, but we are a suburb and we still depend on our cars, even if you are close to the trolley or even if you're close to the commuter rail. So I am really concerned about the number of cars, and I've said this previously. I have 2 kids in their 20s and they live at home and they each have cars. So I am also concerned that that the Milton Police have not weighed in on our overnight parking policy. Concerned that there will be pressure for them and for the town to vote to do away with our overnight parking policy. And all of our streets are very narrow, and I'm concerned with public safety on our smaller, more narrow streets. I have to admit, I don't respond to every email. We get a lot of emails. But we also do meet, I'm defending our actions a little bit here. We meet, 2 and 3 and 4 times a month, and everybody is always welcome to speak. And I do feel like we have listened to a lot of residents and have taken into consideration their concerns. Not that you want to come to all of our meetings in person either, but I think we really have tried and have done a good job in listening to the residents. And to Sean's point about saying we have control over changing our local zoning, even that is challenging. I know people don't like it when I talk about my business. I went through a bylaw change, zoning change 10 years ago. And I desperately want to get back and change some things that are not working. And it has been very hard for me to do it because it does require town meeting support. So it's not as easy as people think. I would have done it already if I thought it was easy. So I agree with Sean that whatever we adopt is really going to be set in stone. And I share that concern.
You raise a concern about the number of units, and certainly I know you're talking about the 25% plan. What doesn't show up in either the citizens' 25% plan or the planning board's 10% plan when you consider how Milton is evolving and building units is the 40B projects. So when that surge of 40B projects came out probably 2 years ago, sir, that number of units was up to 700 units. You don't even see that in here. So the 10% plan has a zoned unit capacity of 1,007. Add to that 500, maybe 600, maybe it could be as many as 700 units that don't even appear in this. And if you're a supporter of the 25% plan and it's 2,461, that's really more like 3,000, 3,100, or 32 if they all get built, right? If they all get built. Now, the 40B projects are real. Those are net new before Cheryl says anything about net new, I will acknowledge that 2,461 is not the net new number, and neither is the 1,007. My point is, there's somewhere in the range of 400, 500, 600 40B projects that we have to keep in mind as a community that we're going to have to absorb as well and provide services to. There's no calculations that our town has done to consider the impact of that and what it's going to take for the town to support that. So you're expressing concern of the 25% plan, and you're saying you're in support of the 10% plan. And if it had to be 25, you'd like to see a different 25% plan. I'd ask you and everybody that supports a 25 or 10 to recognize that's not the only development that we're facing in Milton. These projects, some of them are under construction already.
So to that point, the 25% plan does have districts located where these several 40Bs are being constructed already to get credit, so that's the difference between the zone capacity and the net new, is that we have existing units on some of these locations or some that are being built. So in the 25% plan, there's an East Milton Square district and there's 2 districts on Randolph Ave, and those there's the ones that are under construction currently are in East Milton and on at 711 Randolph Ave, which is called Randolph Ave West District. And there's one approved, waiting for its building permit in the Randolph Ave East District as well. And so when we think about that, and we think about when I said we tried to zone where we have multifamily already, there's multifamily in what's called Milton Station districts, and there's East and Bridge and West, and those all have multifamilies. And then the Mattapan Station, that has a fairly large 149 unit age restricted and income restricted multifamily. So those sort of are all counted, if you will. So if you have the 2467 zone capacity that's in the 25% plan, I've calculated what the existing units, and that gets it down to 1,500. So that when there's a concern about,
I'm trying to, it's hard to separate the 10% and the 25. I just don't want this I'd like to keep with the discussion on the 10%, and then, but if you want to come, I welcome you to come back with the 25% plan.
I mean,
Questions?
yeah,
If that,
the only thing I'll say is I feel like the 40B you're talking about is not utilizing that piece, that construction to its fullest extent. I feel like there's more meat on the bone. Sorry if that's for maybe some of that area. Randolph Ave. So I have an old map, so I'm not sure the properties are correct. I had like Randolph East was 82 properties, and then there's a west that might have been 131. I know there's been multiple iterations, and I haven't printed out the map lately, but I feel like, there's more opportunity. But you guys are waist deep in it, so I know you guys know more about it than me. Again, I'm all for the 10% plan. I don't want to get bogged down in talking about a plan that I don't want to see. But I also like to have my plan B because, like I said earlier, I feel like the tide may be turning and we may not have a choice, and I just want to be ready.
thank you.
But thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Great, thank you. Yes, you'd like to come join us and speak?
John Driscoll, 718 Randolph Ave, town meeting member. I'm all for the 10%, but I won't be here Monday night. I'm going away. But I'm gonna answer this gentleman's question. There's 90 units being built on Randolph Ave right now, and there's 40 going right behind my house. And then we're gonna get, how many more under the 25% plan?
the potential is for 83 in the zone
And the
capacity.
whole Randolph Ave sites on both sides of the road. What, you have
No,
some on
just
the other side?
On both sides of the road, right? That's the 83. I'll have to look what it is just for that.
Give Holland some units?
Let me just get the sheet and I'll tell you the exact numbers here, okay? So the Randolph Ave West, which is a 7-Eleven, is currently being built at 90 units, right? And the zone capacity there is 131.
So
So
you
that's
gave
another
him
40,
40,
right? And then Randolph Ave,
my house,
yeah, so Randolph Ave East by your house has the existing 40, and it's a total of 82, so another 42 for that property
another
that's included,
42 more units.
right? In that horse farm property.
Right, and I think that's pretty much helping out the town of Milton, to be honest with you. We're taking our share, and I'm not happy with it. And I'm the one who got the dump road light, cost me $10,000 to get that light, and everybody's jumping in on it to use it. And then there's units going down on Randolph Ave, right around the corner, 12 units going up there. And there's a project that's right across the street. The lady came before the historical commission and she has no idea what she's gonna do, but she started the clock going. So that neighborhood has got a lot of potential development. And I think the neighborhood's done a lot for the town of Milton, taking on the burden. So I don't want this in anybody's neighborhood. I would like to tell the governor, see you later. I don't care about the grants we're supposedly losing. It doesn't add up for what we're gonna pay. Quincy has added another 120 firefighters in the last 3 years. They went from 185 over 300 for all the development they've done. So there is cost to this. And no one's even discussed it. Go down Cunningham School, it takes you about an hour to get up to the light at Reed's Hill Road from 1:30 until about 3 o'clock. So there is ramifications, and I do not want this in anybody's neighborhood. I'd like to tell the governor, thank you, we'll see you later. Thank you.
Thank you. And anyone else on the 10% plan that would like to speak? Any other hands?
No hands on Zoom.
Okay, all right. So then I would say that we can now move to the 25% plan. And one of the sponsors is here, so welcome.
Thank you.
And we allotted this speaker a little more time, so as a,
Thank you. Karen Friedman Hanna. I live at 3 Norway Road and I'm a town meeting member in Precinct 2, and I'm one of the signers of the citizens petition. Thank you to the planning board for holding this public forum to discuss the zoning articles brought to town meeting this Monday night. Unfortunately, there's not really the opportunity to do a full presentation here. There will be at town meeting, but for citizens who might be interested in some of the details and some of the maps in the newest 25% plan, there's a QR code that you can scan or a link that you can probably see, and I'll show anybody who's here also if you'd like. It gives some details since we're not going into a full presentation here. Thank you also to the planning board for developing this compliant 25% plan that's being presented as the citizens petition. This is not a new plan developed by me or other citizens to put this forward. It's the compliant plan that was developed by you, the planning board, in conjunction with the hired consultants from UTIL that the planning board originally voted to put forth to town meeting, but then revoked and opted only to put the non-compliant 10% plan. As somebody already mentioned, we got notification just yesterday from the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, or HLC, reiterating that the 10% plan being put forth is not compliant and therefore not a legal response. It's the fiduciary and legal responsibility of every elected official, including town meeting members, select board, warrant committee, and planning board, to comply with the law. All attempts to modify our standing as an MBTA rapid transit community have failed. Just this week, it was determined that this was not an unfunded mandate, negating the lawsuit that several towns raised. So that argument is no longer valid either. We must follow the law, either now or down the road, through us being sued by the state. This has already cost the town hundreds of thousands of dollars, money which we do not have. Ongoing frivolous costs because of our noncompliance will wipe out a portion of the benefit that we just received from a huge override that was needed for just basic level funded services. That's not okay. This plan that the planning board worked on for months with the hired consultants may not be perfect, but it is a good one. If there need to be changes, I'm in the school of thought that there can be some changes that can occur through future town meeting votes. If the law miraculously changes and our designation changes, then we can modify our plan. This is just a zoning plan, not a mandate to build. The building, if and when it occurs, will take considerable time. It will not be overnight. In fact, likely over many years for any significant change. It took into consideration the concerns from East Milton residents and redistributed some of the zoning to several parts of town, as has been discussed, most of which are near the various forms of public transportation, including the trolley, the bus line, and the commuter rail. We have 3 forms of public transportation. That helps to clarify that we are a rapid transit community, even if everything moves more slowly than people would like. That's not what defines a rapid transit community. It allows us to get credit for the various 40B projects, as Cheryl just mentioned, and other building projects that are already underway or about to begin. And that way, it also significantly reduces the risk for additional 40Bs. It allows for mixed use, which will potentially bring very necessary additional revenue and businesses to various parts of the town, and which helps also with environmental issues by promoting the use of public transportation and increased walkability to businesses that are located throughout the town. And very importantly, it allows us to maintain control over what's being built rather than it being imposed on us. Out of the 177 cities and towns that the law applies to, 136 are already compliant. 136. 35 additional towns that are considered adjacent have until December 31st to comply and are anticipated to do so. These communities are all making this work, and it's time now for us to do so as well. Thank you, and please take a look at the link or the slides through the QR code, and there will be a more significant presentation done at town meeting if anybody is interested. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now anyone from the audience who would like to speak on the 25% plan? Okay, anyone else? Anyone on Zoom?
No hands on Zoom. No hands.
No hands on Zoom. Okay. All right, so if there is,
Are we gonna have,
we will have our, yes, our comments. Yes, yes, absolutely. So, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Can I just
Yes, please. That's
speak
good.
really quickly?
Certainly. Yeah.
25% buffer.
Yes. It's
Joseph Curran, 30 Grafton Ave, Precinct 7 Town Meeting Member. Usually I become very prepared to speak to this body, and today I'm not as prepared as I usually am, mostly because my neighbors have started calling me, knocking on my door, showing up today. I didn't even know what most of them wanted to talk to me about. And they came to me and were shocked about the 25% plan that's being proposed. They're not in support of it. They don't understand why the town would present that plan. I explained to them that this is a citizen's petition and that it is not something that is endorsed by the town. I understand that this body looked at a 25% plan, and I've explained that to them. But in the end, this body chose not to go forward with that plan. And I'm sure that there are some very good reasons why you chose not to go with the 25% plan versus the 10. And again, I'm a town meeting member. I've never had so many phone calls and door knockers at my door. And this just happened because there was a recent publication that came out in the Suburban Shopper that I haven't seen. I want to thank this board. You have a lot of spirited, fierce conversation about this over the last few years. I know they're doing the best that you can. And I would say, as others have said, and I agree with the members of the board, that we can always go back and change it. And if if town meeting endorses the 10% plan, I would say that we could go back and change it. And as I keep hearing, we can go back and change it from everybody. So I would say we should advocate for the 10% plan. And after the 10% plan gets passed, there's an opportunity for us to go back and maybe reallocate the numbers in a way that's better for everyone in this community. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
We have one hand on Zoom now.
Okay. You can allow then, yes?
Kyle Johnson.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Kyle Johnson, 127 Blue Hill Avenue, and town meeting member in precinct 10. I just wanted to express, and really it's an expression of gratitude that the 25% plan, as it was designed by the planning board, I believe makes several decisions that make it the most fiscally responsible plan, and something that is fiscally positive and a good direction forward for our town. For one, the 25% plan mandates mandatory mixed use development, which many studies have shown is a great way for towns to improve their tax revenue. The 10% plan does not have that mandate. In general, there's been a lot of conjecture and a lot of expression of people's feelings and fears about what might happen. But I believe we need to stick to facts and data, and there is quite a bit of research that we can consult. Research has shown that multifamily housing commonly has a positive impact on town finances. And this makes logical sense because it tends to have less children on average, which is the highest source of expenses, than single family homes, but typically brings in more property tax per acre than single family housing. So the ratio of tax revenue to expenses is often positive. There's been multiple studies of this in Massachusetts municipalities that show the same result. And here I'm getting into more speculative territory, but the 10% plan tends to focus on more areas that are more likely to attract lighter development, smaller development, and less of the areas that are likely to attract more what we might consider higher value luxury condos. So in my layman's vantage point, that seems like those ratios actually might be tighter in that case. My hunch is still probably positive, but tighter. And of course, outside of all of this, there is what we've already said many times about the cost of litigation and grant losses if we do not pass a fully compliant plan. So to me, the 25% plan is a very strong fiscal decision for us as a town. And I just wanted to make a quick legal point. The state has always had authority over zoning. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts is the governing authority over zoning. It has historically delegated a significant amount of that to towns, but through our democratically elected legislature, they can make changes. And we have to comply with those changes in the law according to our laws and according to the Constitution of the Commonwealth, just as we always have. So there's nothing inherently new about this. So I want to strongly endorse the 25% plan as the fiscally responsible and legally appropriate path forward for our town. And I appreciate the work that the planning board did to respond to the feedback of citizens to lower the impact. It has a 25% lower net new building than the 2023 plan did, and spreads the impact more equitably across town. So I believe it is a very strong path forward for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom? Cheyenne, are you seeing anybody or anyone
No
else?
other hands.
Okay, great. Just before we make our comments, I just don't want to forget about commenting on Tom Doherty's request, because I should have probably addressed that earlier, but just to note that I do want to address that. But any comments from the board on the 25% plan?
I'll just,
Or any comment?
Yeah, I mean, I'll-
Yeah, reference to any other. Did you want to also speak? I'm sorry. Or we
Last minute too.
okay.
That's all right. We'll fit, yeah, no, then please come and then there's time here, so.
I said very much not prepared, but I'll be brief. Andrea Lizio, Alvin Ave. I just think that people should be aware when we talk about the 130 plus communities that have already moved forward and are compliant, 90 of them back in 2022 appealed for reclassification and received it, and 5 of which were rapid. We didn't. We could have. We had the opportunity, and perhaps going into the request you have here, that that's where it started. But I think I just think it's important for people to know that those that have complied from of the 177, 90 were able to be reclassified.
Thank you. Okay. Members of the board, any?
I just want to share some information. There's been some references to documents and information. And so I just want to, for those who are listening, to be aware of those documents. There was a decision issued by the Superior Court in Plymouth, and that was, I think, on June 6th. In that decision, the court concluded that 3A or the MBTA communities is not an unfunded mandate, and that the municipalities have, in this particular case, a number of municipalities had failed to identify non-speculative direct costs requiring appropriation for anticipated infrastructure costs. That the court was not bound by the state auditor's determination about the unfunded mandate, and that zoning regulation does not compel construction. And lastly, the municipalities have recourse in pursuing grants specifically intended to fund infrastructure considerations upon compliance. And so the court dismissed the defendant's claims. So that's one document. Another document, which we received on June 11th, is a letter from the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities addressed to our town administrator, having reviewed both the 10% and the 25%. In that letter, they provided some detailed comments on the citizens petition 25%, but they limited their comments on the 10% to one sentence, which states that, I'm trying to find it here, sorry. I can't find the exact wording, but they basically.
I think it was actually in the letter. I think it was in Nick's email.
No, it's in the letter. I'm sorry, I didn't highlight it. But let me just, I'll find it, and I'm just going to paraphrase that the 10% is not compliant with the regulations. And then the comments on the 25% found two mistakes in terms of inconsistencies between the zoning and the compliance model. And only one of those required a zoning amendment. And then some of the others, a couple of the others have to do with the assertions that the town has made about access to a couple of the districts. That's the Paper Mill and the Randolph Ave East. And lastly, they require, as we anticipated, an economic feasibility assessment to be submitted that would allow for us to require 15% of the units in these situations where the housing is more than 8 units or 8 units or more. They only allow that to be 10% unless an economic feasibility assessment shows that that's feasible to be at 15%. But they are allowing that to be submitted after the July 14th deadline. And then the third document is a memo from Town Council Peter Mello concerning the question that's been raised about whether there's a 2-year ban on compliant zoning because the town rejected, I don't know if rejected is the legal term, I don't think so, but basically rejected the zoning from 2023. And he has found himself and in consultation with the AG's, the Attorney General's office in the municipal law unit there, that there are sufficient differences between the articles that the 2-year ban would not apply, so that we are able to act on this zoning at town meeting. So these are things that were raised, some of these things were raised at the warrant committee meeting recently as outstanding issues, and folks who were listening to that, I thought may want to learn that we have received additional information since then. And as I said before, multiple times, I feel that town meeting has the right and the authority to make a decision about whether for the town to adopt zoning that would allow us to be compliant. And I was disappointed that this board pulled that back after initially voting to submit it. And so I thank the citizens who took that work that was done here at the board and with UTIL for bringing that forward to give town meeting that opportunity to vote. And hopefully town meeting, our residents will reach out to their town meeting members with their thoughts. I do think it's important, really, it's very complicated, this zoning. So I do think it's important to think about and to learn what's been incorporated into this citizens petition, which is really the work of the planning board. So if you watch the planning board meetings, or if you look at the presentations that are on the town's website, you'll see all the work that was done to form this zoning. And this is the only opportunity we have to remain compliant. We know that the select board has made a decision not to seek any legal challenges. And so I believe it's our responsibility to support a compliant zoning that we spend a lot of time developing. And so I would hope that this board would vote to support the citizens petition zoning.
So for me, it's all,
And I,
I'm just gonna say, for me, it's always been about reclassification. And there is still a pending case in front of, that was heard yesterday. And I think we could wait and see what happens with that, endorse a 10% plan. If once again, that falls out of our favor and the judge completely shoots it down, we have a 25% plan in the ready. But I can't get behind a 25% plan knowing that there is an existing court case right now that was heard yesterday and we're waiting on a decision. And then if we have to do a 25% plan, I love an idea that was floated where we pass a 10% and then when the state actually, or the MBTA actually improves the T, we'll pass a 25% plan. But I really think we're being taken advantage of by the state. I think we're being just snubbed by the T. I think that rapid transit will never be rapid transit. And if we don't do something to push back, we'll never see that line being built, being converted into anything other than the Mr. Rogers trolley.
Can I just?
So right now, I'd love to get behind a 10% plan.
I just add a comment about the 10%. Adopting a 10% will still keep us out of compliance, still ineligible for grants, and still subject to, I just want the public to also understand and be able to hear on this. Also, subject to enforcement authority by the Attorney General. And people will still be able to apply to do the projects. So we will get housing, and yeah, it will be based on the 10% plan that is not going to have any bearing on what the 25% is if we decide we're going to make changes to it. If we think we're going to adopt exactly what's here today, then before us as something that we've been working on, then maybe there is overlap to them, but the dimensional standards and the requirements for density are not the same. So we could very well get projects that won't comply with 25% when it comes. And we're still at loss of control. And loss of control, I think at this point, could mean with the AG, maybe a special master will come in and decide the 25% zoning for us. And what might they choose? Would they choose the 2023 version that was passed by town meeting already? Maybe they would. Would they even know about this one if it doesn't have a favorable action? I think that's pretty
They just
risky.
approved it. They know about this one because they just sent us a letter stating the 5 things that are wrong with it.
If town meeting doesn't, are you talking about HLC? I'm talking about the
25%
special
that-
master.
That the special master would, if a special master is even appointed, why wouldn't they look at the 25% plan they have in front of them?
That
They
plan,
might not know about it. I think they absolutely know about it because they sent us a letter addressing it. We're
HLC,
not going to be out of compliance forever. I mean, if this lawsuit decision is determined in the next week or two, we have a 25% plan and they're ready. But unfortunately, it's probably going to come down after town meeting.
So I listened to another town's town council on the special mastiff and master, and it was their council said that's highly unlikely to happen. So you know, you have 100 lawyers, you have 100 different opinions. So first off, I would just like the public to know that even though the planning board worked on this plan, it is not our plan. We worked to develop 16, 17, 18 different districts, and none of them were right. None of them were right. So I am pushing back, saying this is a planning board article, planning board worked on it. So perhaps we reviewed it with our consultants, but we never endorsed it. And sometimes you have to go through the work to figure out that something's not right. And we went through the work and we discovered it's not right. So we didn't agree to any of the districts finally ever on all of these, the citizens petition plan. And the planning board is not responsible for this plan. And I want the residents of Milton to know that. I don't want them thinking and getting a mixed message that this is endorsed by the planning board, because it's not. And I think that's a misrepresentation of what went on, and I think you're using it to somehow convince people that it has my endorsement on it, that I'm endorsing it. And I don't like that at all. I'm not endorsing this 25% plan. The planning board did not endorse this. I would like to know from the citizens who put this forward, where is the mixed use? You said it requires mixed use. So I'd like to know where in your minds this mixed use is going to be. I would like to know, how come you didn't add any language to your citizens petition saying that if the law changes, then the zoning will be deemed null and void, so we don't have to go back to town meeting? That would have been a good step, a good thing to do, but it's not there. So I'm a skeptic that town meeting is going to change it. And I think the citizens could have done a better job writing it. And what is the impact on the quality of life for the residents in town? Milton is a suburb, and we all, you know, chose to live in a suburb. And I want to know, what is the quality of life? And some people will argue there's a financial benefit. Not everything comes down to money. You know, we all are here for a reason. We're here for our trees. We're here for our open spaces. And yes, finances are important. And maybe if it was, maybe I should be more, I should have gone into a different career if I thought finances were important. But I don't. It's the quality of my everyday life that is important to me. And I think that's why most people move to Milton and actually move to the suburbs. So I just also, Cheryl, to your point about, you know, town council's memo, And we did get it late, so I haven't had a chance to study it. I mean, it's dated June 12th, which I think is today. And I think we all work, so I haven't had a chance to study it. However, within his most recent memo, he attached Exhibit A, which is dated January 9th, 2024. And in it, back then, he quoted, he said, what did he say? That he thought at that time that the 2-year ban would be in effect. So how come what happened between 2024 and today, June 12th, he had an epiphany and he's changed his mind?
There's a lot of backup to why he changed his mind, Maggie.
Yeah.
When you get a chance to read it.
So I've read it. I didn't study it like I should be studying a legal memo. But I remember back in January of 2024, he came here, he came to town meeting, and I believe he was directed back then to convince people that, yes, if it doesn't pass, then we can, or you have to vote for it because we won't be able to come back and change it. Now, all of a sudden, oh, we can change it. We can change it. So I question this, as I've said before. I know who signs our town council's paycheck, and it's not the planning board. And I requested before from the planning board that we should have our own attorney, and I really think this is a reason why we need our own attorney. I am disappointed that the select board, once again, is not valuing all of our hard work, and they're hijacking the process once again from us. And why do we need a planning board? Like, why do we waste our time if no other boards in town and other residents in town don't value what we do? I know I have a lot of things that can keep me busy. I don't need to be here. But I'm here because my job, and some people question, oh, you guys aren't doing your job. You're not doing your job. We show up and do our job every single night, every single day. And I'm doing my job, and my job is to protect the health and welfare of our current residents of the town who bought into a suburb that is comprised mostly of single-family houses. And I know that there's a state law, there's a mandate, we're all trying to do our best, but sometimes your best is in small steps, and I think 10% should be passed. I'm asking the residents out there to please support all the work that this planning board has done for the past 3 years. Please support our efforts. And I would highly encourage the town meeting members to do so. It's just very frustrating to me that we do a lot of work, we look into things, and then it's dismissed, and our work is not considered important or valued. And I find that really offensive.
So, Madam Chair, I'd like to ask that you asked all of us to try and refrain from disparaging town council or other boards and committees. I think we all recognize that we have differences of opinion ourselves in this board, amongst our board, and there's lots of differences of opinion. And I don't believe that other boards and committees or town council are doing anything about what they think from their information is in the best interest of the town. So I don't like the inference that anybody else has ill intent with what they're doing. And I think we should refrain from implying that.
Well, I hear you. I disagree with you on that. I don't think I've disparaged anybody. I am sticking up for the work that we have done. And so I feel that other boards and committees are disparaging our work. Also, I would also like to know from Cheyenne, from town staff, if she could walk us through how the normal citizens petition process works. So we all know how it works. I have been through the citizens petition process, and I want to make sure that the process is consistent for everybody. And if there's been a change in process of citizens petition, then I'd like to see the information that has shown the change in process.
I don't know why you assume there's a change in process, but that's something to take up, I think, with the select board and the town administrator.
Well, in my personal experience, my citizens petition did not go through and was not defended by um, the town administrator, town council, or a state agency. So I think this citizens petition has gone a different process than most other citizens petition process has gone through. And I just want to know how come.
I'm not certain that it has, but you can take that up with them. I want to say that I do think when you question someone's integrity as a professional, as a legal counsel, as a professional, you question their integrity because you think that the select board is demanding a certain response from them. That is disparaging of that professional.
Can we move on?
Yeah.
Um,
Go ahead.
so just, I guess, taking a step back, maybe 2 steps back. We're in a divided town. It's probably a divided room. I'm not sure what the divide is within the room, but it very well could be divided. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, sir.
You said we're all 10%.
Okay, all right.
Except for.
I think we have a couple of residents that aren't, sir. And you know, it's interesting. You know, we have some people in the town that express and feel fear. We have other people in the town that express and feel excitement. We have people that have concern, and we have people that have optimism. And then we have people that see financial success, and we have people that see financial harm. And we have people that see developmental destruction, and we have people that see development that's complementary to the town of Milton. And the divide that's existed now for years, and it is years, really comes down to the classification of Milton. You know, my opinion is, and I have said it publicly so many times now, I think I'm probably recognized for my public position on this. Milton should adjudicate the classification. That's a simple matter. Adjudicate the classification. A resident in the audience tonight who spoke before the board had offered his services and wrote a brief seeking declaratory judgment and was providing his services for 0 cost to the town of Milton. 0 cost. Milton is not going to get healed by a 25% plan passing in town meeting. Milton will be angry for years. The 54% people that turned over what was passed in town meeting, do you think they're going to be satisfied when town meeting, and we know that town meeting is also 2/3 one side, 1/3 the other side. We all know what's going to happen Monday night. We all do. It's a foregone conclusion. I do intend to speak Monday night and express my point of view. The select board and the previous select board, and for that matter, the select board prior to that, all had an opportunity to fight for Milton for its classification. The former Director of Community and Planning Development also had that opportunity. He was the first one to have the opportunity. That didn't happen. It took a resident and 16 residents to sign on with that resident to bring adjudication or an attempt at adjudication to resolve this issue. Ignoring it and saying we shouldn't adjudicate it, we should just comply with it, where the town is so divided, does not move the town forward. What do you say to the 50% or 54%, how many people it was a number of years ago, that you ignored their concern with determining in a court of law if a court of law would see us as rapid transit? Why not? Why not? And those folks that feel that we're not rapid transit, had we gone to a court of law and had we been determined in a court of law to be rapid transit, well, you've gone as far as you possibly could. I would say to the select board at that point, you've done everything you could, and the court is probably finding deference to what they think is a community need for the state. But at least you tried. Take it to the court. It took a resident and 16 residents to support it, to do what the leadership of the town should have done over the previous years. The reason that I can't support a 25% plan is because I do not see financial success. I see financial harm. I see great risk. I see issues in Milton that we are not happy with today that are only going to get tremendously worse. And whatever happens Monday night doesn't resolve the feelings that exist in the town. Monday night, those that have fear or excitement, they'll leave that meeting Monday night with fear or excitement. And those people that have concern or optimism, well, the optimists will remain optimistic. Those with concern will remain with concern. Financial success, financial harm, again, you're not going to change the feelings of the people. And we failed as a town, to satisfy what's been debated for years because we weren't willing to adjudicate the one issue, the one question. Forget all the other stuff. Forget unfunded mandate. Forget all kinds of things. Determine classification, and you resolve just about everything. And how, do we ignore the offer of one of the most accomplished attorneys in Milton, who was willing to do it for $0, and we pass on that. We pass on it. I don't think that's serving the residents of Milton, no matter what side you're on. It doesn't matter what side you're on. Resolve it. Resolving conflict in adversarial situations is a basic tenet in life. We do it within our families. We do it within our workplaces. We do it within our communities. We had an opportunity to resolve conflict and we chose not to. We, as they say, we punted as leadership of town. I will tell you that if this gets adjudicated in a court of law and 25% is what we're forced to do because of classification in court of law, I'm accepting it. I am accepting it. I'm not fighting it. Not at that point. But why can't we do that? The residents should demand it, but not enough residents will demand it. Not enough to get the town to do it. That's how you resolve this. I respect that some people are in favor of it. I respect that some people are opposed to it. I am opposed to it for the reasons I've said in previous meetings and the reasons I started to say tonight. But let's resolve the reason that we have such a difference. We can't do that. We're not the executive leaders of the town of Milton. We're not. But there are people that can do it. Past Tuesday night, a decision was made not to pursue it. Doesn't mean they can't pursue it in a future meeting. They can. My opinion is they should. And as Jim Davis said, the court will make a decision on what the residents brought to the court for a brief.
And soon.
Yeah. And it's a shame it took a resident instead of the leadership of the town. And it's a shame that the leadership of the town couldn't understand that the divide in Milton doesn't go away if you pass a 25% plan on Monday. It doesn't, because the people that feel like we weren't properly assigned classification, they're not going to feel healed by town meeting passing 25%. They're going to feel like they got screwed, that nobody cared about them. We should care about everybody.
Thank you all.
Can I just add one more? The court case that I mentioned earlier also does address some of those communities' argument that they shouldn't be subject to 3A because they were improperly classified as adjacent communities, and the court did not agree with that argument. The other is that some of those communities had argued that the regulations are arbitrary and capricious, and the court did not agree with that. So I think it's a pretty good indication where the court's going to find on the 16 citizens petition, or 16 residents petition to the court. That may not be the legal term, but in any case, that's what's before the court now. It's very similar to the arguments that were put forth by a number of communities, including Hanson, Holden, Marshfield, Middleton, Wenham, Weston, and Rentham. And the court did not find any of it to be likely to be successful. And so they were dismissed. So I think we need to be careful about giving false hope, and that's all I'll
None
say
of those
about the
towns have
legal.
a trolley, Cheryl. It's
They
a
have their own
reclassification.
arguments.
Our argument is
They
different.
weren't classification. It's not a matter of
Different.
It's not a matter of false hope, in my opinion. It's a matter of proper adjudication. It's as simple as that. It's not about hope, or lack of hope. It's about process. It's about taking something that is a dispute and resolving it the way that it can be resolved. It's simple.
Let it play out. It puts closure on it. Sean's absolutely right. We'll bring the town together if we wait. Don't want to hear that. I understand, but
I don't
Thank
say I
you all.
want to
We're
hear
not
it.
going to resolve it tonight. Obviously,
Right.
this
I can
was
resolve it.
Sean's point, and I I'm thankful for all the comments that the board members make. Obviously, I've been clear that I feel confident that we should move the 10% plan forward, and there are just many concerns. We basically walked to the edge of a cliff and decided not to jump. If the town meeting wants to take that and make that determination, that will be on town meeting, and that will be on those in favor of the citizens petition. So I respect everyone's opinions on this, but I do feel strongly that it's important that we do a 10% plan, because that at minimum, I believe, is something that we all can come together and actually agree on.
Can I make
And
one
that-
comment on that?
done,
And
yes.
and this is something I probably I think the 10% plan that's been put forth by the planning board to town meeting should have an amendment made to it, that an amendment with some language that would effectively say, if our classification changes and we are deemed an adjacent community, this is the 10% plan that Milton will follow. It doesn't say that. There were plenty of people in town meeting that, although they may support a 25% plan, may also support the 10% plan if the 10% plan has a restriction on it.
Mhm.
And that, in my opinion, would be a very safe measure for the town of Milton, safe in that we would have a plan that every developer would have to comply with if our classification was changed. If we don't pass a 10% plan in town meeting and our classification is changed, we have no guideline for a zoning plan, and we cannot have a guideline for a zoning plan until we get a plan before town meeting, an approved plan before town meeting. So I think it's very risky to ignore that 10% plan, because we don't know if our classification will change. And until that is known, it would behoove us to have a plan that protects the town. But I think the only way we could do that is if we have an amendment made to that 10% plan that allows people that supports the 25 to feel comfortable. If they also approve the 10, it has a restriction on, it's conditional. It's conditional. It only takes effect if our classification changes.
So is that language, is that something, I would have to ask town council to provide that language. We don't have that language to put forth tonight.
I don't either,
I could ask for language that would be conditional, that if we were reclassified, or if,
and it would be conditional. It would only be utilize that 10% plan if our classification changed.
or a decision in court that changed our status. Okay, I can ask, and then we will be meeting before town meeting at 7 o'clock. So I can have something, maybe have Peter send something out if that.
So along the lines of meeting before town meeting.
Yeah.
We just received this. I haven't had a chance to read it. And also I'd like this to be sent to the moderator to see whether the moderator thinks that this would be something that's acceptable. And I'd rather wait till Monday to discuss it, since I'd like to be able to read it and think about it.
I can tell you my opinion. It was read to us by Tom.
No, it wasn't.
Mr. Doherty. It was. He read this word for word. He sat at the mic and read it. We can go back. You can hear him read it if you replay the tape. I don't need any more. I can understand what it says here, and I would support having town council address this. I would like town council to address that and answer those questions. It's simply yes or no. I don't think the questions are that complicated.
I don't think a simple yes or no is an appropriate way to ask a town council to make a comment on something. We have spoken about how difficult all of this is, and to say yes or no on these, I don't see where town council would even agree to do it. And then that's going to be, I gotcha, because you wouldn't say yes or no on it.
A resident has given it to us and asked us. If town council says, I cannot give a yes or a no, that's his prerogative to say that. I don't know whether he can or he can't, but I know one attorney is asking for another attorney to say yes or no. I mean, I don't think that's a big ask.
Well,
what I'm saying is I don't need to wait until Monday night to share my opinion with you and the rest of the board and the audience. I support the questions that are being asked here being posed to town council.
And I would rather have answers before Monday, honestly.
I would rather give him time to think about, and I'm not telling him how he has to answer, but that if he would be able to answer these questions. I think these are questions that have been repeatedly brought to our attention, not just tonight. This has been something that's been provided. It's actually been, these questions, I believe, have been provided to town council previously. We just don't have the answers. We don't know. It was we don't know what those are. So I would think he would be pretty prepared to answer these questions on Tuesday evening.
Because this is assuming that the regulations are not correct, because this is assuming that we're commuter rail and not subway. So this is making an assumption that the regulations are not properly established. So it's a challenge to the regulations. And so, I don't endorse this as being coming from the planning board. If somebody wants to raise it as a question as a town meeting member, or even as a guest, and makes a request to the moderator to raise it, I don't think it's appropriate for the planning board to do that.
I think what the point of is that these are things that are taken directly from the statute and from the regulations themselves.
This
isn't changing. This is
making an opinion.
No, this is word for word.
This is word for
word.
Out of the statute. And
it says the fact that Milton has developable land located not more than 0.5 miles from a commuter rail station.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't address the subway station, because it says next. that even if the trolley stops were considered subway stations, so it's making assumptions that are different than what the regulations say.
Let the attorney answer that then.
Yeah, exactly.
What's wrong with that?
It's a question that is, it's again, I think this process has been about answering questions and having all the full information as much as possible. And I think this would be helpful and give time for town council to prepare this. And he can answer however he wishes. So
Need a motion?
we would need a motion to vote to do this.
I'll make a motion for the planning board to request that town council answers the questions put forth by Tom Doherty.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion?
We have one hand on Zoom.
We're in a
Middle of a
vote
vote.
now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, that's, so second, I'll, roll call. Oh, actually, we don't have to do roll call. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so I was in, yes, so we're
4-1.
4-1. So we should also probably have a vote just to request from Peter Mello language that in the event that we are reclassified, that the 10% plan would be some language that we would. Do you want to restate what you were thinking?
Sure.
That if we, in the event that we were reclassified, that the 10% plan would be.
I would
In
ask,
effect.
yeah, I would ask town council to provide language that could be utilized to make an amendment to the 10% plan that would allow the 10% plan to be utilized as Milton's zoning plan if our classification allows a 10% zoning plan.
Okay.
So I just have a
We're-
comment
yeah.
before we go to a vote. I don't think you can make zoning contingent like that, so I plan to vote no.
Yeah, I think it's a question that we would have to ask town
Town
council.
council,
So
sure.
that's what it's asking town council if they would do that. And I think what the point was that Sean was saying is that maybe some people could vote for that and the 25. So because I know a lot of people may want to feel like they're voting for the 25, but if we were reclassified, they would vote for the 10% too. So I think this gives an opportunity for residents who would want to vote for both for whatever reason. Some may not wish to vote for both, but it would make it possible for them to do that. And I'll just make that request.
I see it as a protective measure. It really is going to come down to our classification. And if our classification remains rapid transit, it's not going to mean anything to have a 10% plan. But if our classification changes, at least we have a plan that has to be followed.
And the other, yeah.
But town meeting could approve both without
could.
that language. Currently.
I doubt it'll ever happen, Cheryl.
Yeah,
I just don't think the
could.
people. Okay.
Just because they could is no reason not to pass it.
Yeah, I mean,
Not
if
to
it-
put that in there.
I think
to
we
do-
have, I think it protect, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No,
you.
not at all.
No, no.
And the question
Sorry,
is
Sean.
also, what if for whatever reason, and this would be something I could also ask town council, if for whatever reason, the 25% plan is not found to be compliant, the citizens petition plan, there were some issues and there was some question of certain things could cause it to be not compliant. If that was deemed that way, then I would at least like to have voted on a 10% plan and have that while we work, because I think, I don't know if that would hold off, the state from.
So the only thing in the letter, we know that they say that the 10%, the proposed planning board amendment does not meet the criteria of General Law, Chapter 48, Subchapter 3A, or 760 CMR 72. But the only thing that the citizens petition would have to be amended by would be to amend Milton Station East Subdistrict density from 40 to 44, because the compliance model has it at 44 and it affects the zone capacity. So the table that Util prepared was correct, is that the zoning was incorrect. That's an amendment. Otherwise, it's when the compliance models are resubmitted and there's some statements made by the town. So there's nothing other than that HLC has already indicated is going to need to be revised in the 25% plan. The 10% plan, they didn't comment on any detail because they say it doesn't meet it.
Yeah, as I said, if our classification changes and we don't have a 10% plan, we have nothing.
How is the classification going to change?
You're aware that a resident has filed a brief and it is in a court right now,
And it was heard yesterday.
and it was heard yesterday.
And I heard that the judge basically, the same arguments were made to the same judge, and the judge asked if he thought he was going to have a different opinion about that, right?
No, that's not what I had heard. However, if that decision isn't made before Monday night, then we have a pending decision on classification to Milton.
That wouldn't change the classification necessarily. The citizens who submitted that may or may not even have standing, so the judge could decide whether they even have standing, right?
That is correct. And yesterday, that case ended, or that hearing ended, and they were not told they didn't have standing. Now, could he say that they don't have standing someday between now and Monday? Yes. But if we have standing and a decision isn't made, then we take the risk of not having a 10% plan. And if we are classified, if the classification changes, then we have nothing.
You think the classification is going to change by Monday?
No, that's why I'm saying if we don't do this, Cheryl, we have nothing. We have nothing. Remember, if he says this issue has standing, you just said, and I agree with you, he may not make a decision on classification by Monday. So we go through Monday, the 25% plan passes, I assume it will. The 10% plan doesn't pass because there's no conditional language. Classification does change, and now we have no plan.
Well, we have a 25% plan.
If our classification changes, Cheryl?
Then we go back and amend the 25% plan,
When?
right?
In November?
October.
Okay. So why would you?
Have to rescind it.
You don't have to, you can amend it.
No, because it's part of our zoning.
Back down to 10 at
It's-
town meeting with a
Yeah.
2/3 vote.
It's, you know, I see it
gonna
as,
happen.
I see it as risk averse. You know, the 10% plan is a subset of the 25% plan. So it's a risk averse decision for the town to create language that will allow people to vote for both. So conditionally, if our classification changed, we are protected. We have a plan in place.
I don't understand how it's different than just having a vote on the two articles. You're saying that we can't vote on the two articles?
You can.
Yeah.
You
okay.
can. But who is, if you're a supporter of the 25% plan, why would you ever support a 10% plan unless there was conditional language that said that it would only be applied if the classification changed?
I don't think you can do it with zoning, but you can ask town council.
We'll ask. That's
All
the
right.
question. Okay.
All right.
So is that a vote to ask town council on that question?
Yes,
All in favor?
I.
I'll abstain.
Okay, great. All right. Was there one more hand up? Did you see it before we close the public hearing? I just wanted to make sure if there was.
Was there a motion there?
I'm sorry.
Was there
could
a
you-
motion, Meredith, for that?
Yes, there was a motion.
Who made it?
I made the
John.
motion. I made the motion.
Sean, yes,
Okay.
to request amendment language from town council.
Thank you, Julia.
Okay.
Thank you. And you would like to come and join us and have a question?
Step forward?
Yes, please. And state your name and address for the record.
Yes, absolutely.
Excuse me. My name is Leonard Glynn. I live at 143 Woodland Road in Milton. My parents brought me to Milton when I was about 9 I'm 76. So they brought me here in the 50s and they bought a house on Audubon Road off of the Parkway. Some of you may know that area for $12,000. That house is currently 460, 480 on Zillow. I live on Woodland Road. I'm not going to talk about the price of my house, but the mortgage is all paid off. It's doubled. My son can't afford a home, can't imagine a home. When I came to Milton, cops and firemen lived in our neighborhoods. And working people were able to afford. Now, I can't, since I'm not granularly acquainted with the choices in front of us, between the 10 and 25%, but we all need to recognize that this whole country, or well, actually not the whole country, but mostly the heavily zoned, prosperous zones of this country, New York, San Francisco, Boston generally, et cetera, and a few others, have a housing crisis that affects the ability of ordinary working people to live in our communities, period. I mean, I'm not an ordinary working person, though I come from a couple of them. I'm fairly wealthy, but I believe we should do all we can to encourage the increase of supply of housing in our country, one town, one city at a time, and hopefully at some point a federal law that encourages towns to allow more construction. And I'm just, again, I can't comment on the choices directly in front of this committee, but I have believed for a long time that we don't have like this housing boom. And I also am not afraid, and I don't believe that our current house prices will collapse if we increase supply, because the backed up demand of unbuilt housing in this country is so huge that it will take us a generation to get ourselves out from under it. And so I'm in favor of Milton doing the best we can to encourage housing construction within reason. So then, again, I'm not siding between the two potential options, but I think we need to recognize that our state government was attempting to address what's a genuine national problem. In many parts of this country, the next generation of kids, even kids of prosperous parents like myself, can't even imagine buying a home without subvention from their parents. Public housing has been dramatically reduced. House prices are off the charts. This, for those who own homes, this seems to be a wonderful thing, but it's catastrophic for their kids and for future generations. And we need to be as active and positive as we can to encourage more housing construction. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Right. All right, and so that we're at 9 o'clock, which is where I thought we would end up. So with that, I think we can close the public hearing if I have a motion. Is it?
I bought my first house in Brooklyn, New York, around 1979. Brownstone in a neighborhood called Sunset Park that was troubling and gentrifying, so to speak. I paid 43 grand for it. And I sold it for 250 about 5 years later, 7 years later, after tons of labor, needless, gutting wall, all that stuff. Years and years and decades went by. I looked it up on Zillow one time about 3 years ago, and I was shocked to find that the place was selling for $1.6 million. A few months later, I looked it up again. It was $2.1 million. I mean, this is not good. I mean, even if I'd held the house, of course, I'd be happy about the gains, but my son can't buy a home. Our firemen, cops, teachers, people who make Milton work can't buy a home. I mean, that's just my vibe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we all agree with you, just, My daughter's a teacher. My daughter's a teacher here in Milton. So I understand how we all want our kids to be here. And I agree with you, we all need to do something. And my frustration is that we have 355 cities and towns in this state, and including Boston, but only 177 towns, and excluding Boston, are tasked with solving the problem. So that is my frustration with it should be a statewide solution for all of us to solve together. And I think that more towns would have been willing in wanting to help to step up if the mandates didn't come from the top down. We all know what needs to be done, and we should be allowed to do it. And every town is a little bit different. Some towns have problems with sewer and water, and we need to be able to solve our own problems. And that is unfortunately not happening. You know, they're taking away local control of trying to solve a problem. So we agree, and I think we all agree to that. It's how we get there, and we should all do it together as a state.
Yes, I agree.
All right.
We should have done the same on busing.
No. Okay,
I haven't done
we
my
have
homework.
we're going to let one last speaker here and then close the public hearing. So
Good evening, everybody. And I agree with both Maggie and you, sir, about with your perspectives. I have a perspective too that I like to share. I think they know my perspective, but nonetheless, I'm going to walk through it if I could quickly. I feel the only appropriate zoning plan. Oh, sorry.
Name and address.
Oh, sorry. Mark Christo, 17 Waldo Road. I feel the only appropriate zoning plan for Milton is a 10% plan. The reason, the ambiguous classification, affording the most legitimate claim for reclassification. When HLC, Executive Office Housing Livable Communities, rebranded the Mattapan Trolley to Rapid Transit, they failed to acknowledge that Ashmont is the rapid transit terminus and that the trolley is operationally inferior. And they failed us by not providing a deadline extension for their haphazard policy change. The associated zoning requirement is therefore the most consequential, inequitable, excessively punitive. We are tasked at 250% what we would be otherwise. And it's just wrong. When I look at fair and equal treatment for Milton, it's dependent really upon rejecting any 25% plan. The MBTA's abandoned plans for the conversion of the Mattapan Trolley to rapid transit are proof positive that the trolley is not rapid transit. Those plans provide an exemplary framework showing just 2 rapid transit stations as a byproduct. Imagine if we didn't have that plan. That fact changes everything in determining today's appropriate zoning plan. A rapid transit zoning plan could only calculate developable station area for catchment around 2 rapid transit stations, not 7 trolley stops. With certainty, that calculation would be less than HLC's stale, overstated 404 acres as they have presented. I'd ask that we have HLC calculate the DSA for just those 2 rapid transit stations for comparison. That would trigger a chain effect in my mind. You would have reduced developable station area. You would also then have a reconfigured transit area with the hollowing out of the Elliott Street corridor due to the elimination of Cape and Valley and Central Ave and a reassessment for zoning offset elsewhere in town. Those 3 necessary elements are reason to disqualify any 25% plan based upon HLC's stale data and do the need for them to follow their own guidelines direction, which is to provide calculated catchment around stations. On another note, and I'm sad to say, I feel our select board, given the resources afforded it, failed to provide Milton legal standing Tuesday night, weakening our ability to prevail with our reclassification challenge. Oh, purposely calamitous? Our community should be far more fearful of the irreparable harm of a 25% plan Think of the possible financial bankruptcy of just the school system, rather than some temporal loss of selective grant funding while seeking declaratory judgment in a court of law. Be far more concerned of the harm inflicted on us by HLC, their irreverence in coming to terms with our fact-based arguments, while they simultaneously executed significant reductions to the zoning requirements for 90 municipalities. That's more than half of the subject 177 communities. I have that listing. I shared it with the select board. I will make sure I share it with all of you. I would love to see it put on the website. I think it'd be beneficial for every town meeting and resident voter to take a look at that. It's telling. Milton needs definitive clarity for its ambiguous classification. More important than all, it needs leadership. Leadership that doesn't fearmonger or say, I told you so, but rather works doggedly for the town's best interests and the many they represent. And I put you people in that category. You have worked doggedly, each and every one of you, over the course of the last 3 years. And it's always a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you. I would just ask if I could, though, I did provide some FAR values before, and I know they were incorporated in the 25% plan. I'm hoping, I mean, that was presented for the benefit of the neighborhood, not for one plan versus the other. So I'm hoping they're on that 10% plan as well.
They're in an amendment that's going to be made.
Okay. That's it for me now.
And thanks for your input on the FAR.
Pleasure.
And speaking of, just to formalize, we should probably just, because we all discussed that, we all agreed upon it at the warrant committee, but just to take just a final vote, we can do it tonight. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear and on the record, the amendments of the typos, the typos and the table, the more detailed table, which has been sent out from Cheyenne to all of us. It was just putting that in there, and then it will be green sheeted, but I just wanted to make sure that we had a formal vote on that. So if I could have a motion to approve the amendments to the Article 5.
So moved.
Did we want to pull those up so the public could see them? Because it's, the zoning has been posted, but should people be able to see those? Just a short period of time between now
Yeah,
and
we can do
Monday?
that.
I mean, I know they're not significant, but the FAR is a
Yeah, if you
significant
have it-
one, and
Do you
correcting
have
the street
green
names.
Yeah, the green sheet. That might be easier that Nick sent out.
Yes, let me pull it up.
Which just says, it's rather than going through the whole article, it just is what those.
Just highlight the
Yeah,
changes.
the changes,
Yeah.
yes. Takes a minute. We have so many documents that
I know.
are circulating.
Here we go.
Be nice to have a folder with all the minutes. There's one out there.
Yeah, just out and to the right. Take a right.
Okay, here you go.
Yes.
Can you make that a little larger?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, so this is the, if you go, just scroll down up one more time. So it was just incorrectly in the warrant that went out, referred to the Blue Hills Parkway corridor as the Elliott Street corridor. So that was just corrected because for that district. And then there was a table which just breaks down further the dimensional, the maximum floor area ratio, FAR. We just broke that down so that it's the same in the 25 as the 10% plan. And then the other typo, the other just Scribner's mistake, the 7-Eleven Randolph Avenue, that was changed because that had also said Elliott Street corridor, just in the final draft. So those are the things that we're just voting to, as we had discussed at the warrant committee and supported changing. So
I'll make a motion to submit these edits to the warrant committee for consideration for a revised recommendation.
Yep. And they have seen these and actually approved them too. So,
Second Cheryl's motion.
great. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. So at this time, we will now close the public hearing on the zoning articles for town meeting on Monday. Thank you. Thank you all. Yes. Good night. Thank you. Yes.
Hey.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate the residents coming out tonight. So your time is also valuable, so we appreciate your being here. So, okay, thank you. Okay, so now we can move on. We have the FAR, yes. So we have two, we have Revere Street, the Revere, 75 Revere Street. No. Is there
Hello.
anyone here?
Ned Corcoran.
Yes, there he is.
There he is, okay.
I was just promoted to a panelist.
Okay, great.
Takes a little while, and I think Jim DeSalle is also with me. He is the engineer who has drawn this plan. And I think it's a fairly simple and straightforward thing. If I can share my screen.
Yes, and I have a hard copy here for the members, if anyone wants to see.
So this is the, if you can see this, this is the A&R property. You can see, and I'll actually, let's see. So this is the town map. This is Revere Street, Harold Street. This is an old pre-zoning subdivision with very small lots, large houses on small lots on Revere Street. This is proximate to the Pine Tree Brook with the Milton High School fields right here. So this lot is a combination of 6 created with that subdivision. Let's just go to. So you can see this lot, as it currently exists, is all of this.
So Ned, excuse me, can you just zoom in on that lot, please?
Yep.
A little bit more. Thank you.
Let me just.
Just down on the lower right there, the plus sign.
Yeah, I know, but I have to
Oh.
get everybody else out of the way.
Oh, right, yeah, okay. I can sympathize, okay.
Yep. Okay, so
Thank you.
the existing lot is of these old small lots. There's a large dwelling on the property here and a shed here. The idea is to divide it into 2 lots, each of which is compliant with residency zoning with 75 feet of frontage and 7,500 square feet of land area. So the new lot line would be here and here. It actually would have 110 feet of frontage on this side, 76 feet of frontage on this side, with the existing driveway serving here, and then the new lot would have primary frontage on Harold Street. So it complies with the minimum requirements, which are 75 feet of frontage. Each lot would be compliant with 75 feet of frontage. The existing house meets the required setbacks, and the new lot would be compliant as well. So it's a fairly simple, straightforward approach to an A&R plan, and we request that the planning board agree to endorse it.
So I have a couple of questions. Meredith? you can
yes,
put that-
go ahead.
All right, so that angle, where you've made the lot 1 have only 40 feet there, it looks
Yep.
like you could have it be at the 50-foot mark and probably still be within your 7,500 square feet of required lot area for lot 2. It just would match up with the other parcels at 50 feet in width, right? I'm just kind
Yeah,
of
I
curious
think
on the angle.
this is the owner probably will build new here and sell here, and she wants to retain as much area here to build a dwelling and have some form of yard. So,
Is the driveway intended to be shared?
no, it'll be a new, well, it might be, there may be easements allowing sharing of driveway. It may also, she may also create her own new driveway off of Harold Street.
Would that driveway, I just want to follow it looks like lot 2 would have the potential, Ned, to have the drive on either Revere Street or Harold Street. Is that right?
Yeah, the existing driveway will remain on this lot. And there will be, actually have to be an easement created to maintain driveway access for the existing dwelling,
Yeah.
because this driveway will be on the new lot.
It'll be part of lot 2. The driveway will. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I actually don't mind the shared driveway. It's less impervious area. And if that's what they intend to do. I was just wondering, because of the 50-foot demarcation of all the other lots and having that go to 40 and 110. But
Cheryl, can I ask, are you saying that these dimensions are all 50s?
yes,
And you're
yeah.
talking about making this dimension a 50?
No, just like taking that point there and moving
Yep.
it to there.
Okay, to
Just
make
slightly,
that length.
Yeah,
50.
just to keep that
Mhm.
standard, I guess.
You know, this lot is the only one that's not standard with every other lot on this street. These are all much smaller lots with large dwellings.
Yeah, but let's just say folks put up a fence, right? And now you're going to have, it's making it, you say it's the only one that's different. This is going to make 2 lots much different than everything else. But I mean, it meets the requirements. I get that. It's just that it seems the rationale for that line just is a little questionable to me, but if they're absolutely set on it.
Yeah, the rationale for the line is to sort of maximize the lot area for each of the 2 lots. They're different than every other lot in this district, but the idea is to maximize the lot area for each one so that they have some sense of space that doesn't exist with respect to the other lots in the neighborhood.
So does it really meet the rear yard setback with that angle at that corner?
Yep. Rear yard setback is here to Harold Street, it's 43 feet.
But it's not across the
Yeah, it's just it's an odd
point. Yeah.
it's an odd configuration to me because at the corner on the right, the lower right corner of that house, you're really only 10 feet from the property line on the side and towards Harold Street. And that would
Right,
get
and
slightly larger if you move that point over.
And the side yard setback is 10 feet. It's a residency district.
So I sort of feel like if they've meet the standards, I mean, does it matter what we prefer as long as they meet the standards?
Well, we weigh in on many, many things
Yes,
that
yeah.
you could ask the same question of.
No, Maggie's right. Maggie's right on this. If it meets the standards, you can't say no.
Yeah.
No, but we can ask you to rethink something. I mean, and I'm not saying that's something necessarily, but this is the kind of subdivision of property that legally meets it, but I don't like it from a design perspective. And I think it's inconsistent with what's been laid out around it. And was making a suggestion to sort of kind of be in between something which is allowed and which makes more sense. And so, yeah, I mean, we talk about this a lot. And sure, we have to approve it, but it doesn't mean we can't comment on something that we think could be better.
I think that's fair. But in this case, a lot of thought has gone into the preparation of this plan between Jim, myself, Ms. Williams, who's the owner, her thoughts about how she wants to preserve the existing building and move forward with a smaller dwelling on the new lot. This is, there was, we didn't just lay this out on a plan. There was a fair amount of thought that went into this.
Yeah, and that's what I was sort of thinking is, I do feel like on any A&R, that there are reasons, personal reasons and family reasons, and you might not like it and it might be odd. But if you meet the standards, it's hard to say no, and I don't like anything subdivided. But what we want and what we can vote on is sometimes different.
Jim, can I ask a question on this? To what Cheryl's suggesting, I'm just kind of like spitballing here, but it looks like if that 60.25 was changed to 50, right? Which is what you're asking, Cheryl, I think, right? Something
Yeah.
like that.
Well, yeah, that 40-foot dimension moves to 50.
Yeah,
So it changes.
You'd be sub.
yeah, the 40 moves to 50, the 110 moves to 100. The square footage on the lot's probably,
I think
you add 80 feet to one lot maybe and take
Maybe.
80 feet away from the other lot. I mean, how
It would be a substandard lot.
that little triangle is 179 square feet.
This is the lot.
It's 7650, I believe, isn't it?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. you're-
76, 79, Jim.
Yeah, but that little triangle in the lower left corner there, if you took the point, take that point and move it over just that 10 feet there, that's a triangle I see. That, no, just, not the whole,
Oh, just that little
just,
line.
it's just that little
so slight,
triangle.
yeah.
It's very slight.
yeah.
And that cannot be 179 square feet.
No. You're right. But that goes to the gate that's there. There's a reason for that.
Okay.
There's a gate in the back of the fence. And that gives her the gate in the back of the fence, which is one of the things she wanted. I mean, does it change anything? I mean, we can change anything. You can go for a variance too, but we were trying to get something that was by right.
Right. No, understood. And what kind of gate is that that's there?
It's literally a 3-foot gate in a white vinyl fence.
There's
And
a
the
whole,
fence,
there's a
does
fence
the
that
fence
runs.
go all the way across?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm more concerned about the vinyl fence.
But again, it's what's the difference? Technically, I guess.
Technically, the new owner takes down the vinyl fence, whatever. It's, and now, your pattern of 50 feet frontage is changed.
But that's not the frontage for the house on lot 1.
Understood, but when I think about these things as frontage, it's not just, numbers on a piece of paper. It's like what those lot sizes are defining in terms of the rhythm of the houses, and it is different there because it's at the end. I get that. And this house is straddling between the two streets, and I get that. So.
And we're also dealing with a client that's lived there for X amount of years that.
Right.
We haven't not talked about this.
Okay.
We've gone over this for, believe me, a long time.
And you can see that from this map, the town's map, that this property has nothing to do with the pattern of the neighborhood. You have very small lots with pretty significant houses on them. And then you have this is a large dwelling. And so the idea is to create another lot that is somewhat consistent with what's left, but would create an area to build a new smaller dwelling here.
You know, it seems like the pattern breaks at, I'm going to try to pronounce, at 70 Harold Street, Balthazar, because from that point, it was 150 feet and 57 feet. So now what you're proposing is that changes to 40 feet, 110 or 50 and 57, or Cheryl is suggesting 50, 157. But I guess what I'm looking at here is that the pattern that we're talking about of 50s really only exists from Balthazar's property moving left on the page. You know, so
There's
it's
a-
not like, you know what I mean?
Right. There's a clear pattern, you're right.
And then it changes at Balthazar.
And it
Already
changes on this line.
Yeah,
And this whole
That
piece
was
of
the original
property
house on
is
that.
Ms. Williams' property.
that's probably right.
That was the original house and that whole, and then it was
Yeah.
subdivided.
Probably,
Yep.
you're right, probably subdivided around it, because
Later
this is
time,
a
around it.
large, sort of a, I don't want to say a manor house, but it's a much larger dwelling. It's 3 full stories. It's, you
There's
know,
like carriage
Yeah.
barns, there was.
Yeah. So although I mean,
Like a
I
farm.
understand your reasoning, Cheryl, but I think where we already have a 57, 100 and or I'm sorry, a 57 and 150, you know, if there's reasoning to have the 40, 110 as opposed to 50, 100, I don't know, I guess I'm looking at saying the pattern already is different than the rest of that.
Yeah, I mean, this is not uncommon where a large house on a large parcel gets subdivided off and you have a large house on a small parcel.
Yeah.
And they do, it does change the character of what they were.
mean, it-
so. But I mean, it can be done. It's just,
Exactly.
it does
And-
change the character.
but if you think about what was there 100 years ago, you probably had this large dwelling,
Mhm.
and all of this was their property. And it was divided into much smaller lots, and those lots were all sold. And they held on to this dwelling as a larger lot. I mean, that seems to be fairly consistent with how this neighborhood was developed.
And pretty fairly consistent with what's going on in Milton as a whole.
Right.
Unfortunately.
And for the record, that house on the corner is not me.
That.
Just in case.
Well, it sounds like this is what makes sense for the owner and it meets the requirements. So I'll make a motion to endorse the plan as not requiring subdivision approval.
There a second?
Second, sorry, Sean.
That's right. Jim can have it.
So it was Cheryl and Jim seconded. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
So Jim will, thank you. So Jim will produce a Mylar and we'll get it in for endorsement.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, moving along, I'm sorry. Yeah, that was, thank you. The next we have 270 Hillside Street. You want to come join us? Welcome.
Good evening, Madam Chairperson, members of the board. For the record, Attorney Barry R. Crimmins of 909 Washington Street in Stoughton. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, which is Hannah Riccardi, as trustee of the Margaret T. Oldfield 2012 Revocable Trust, for hopefully your endorsement of the A&R plan that I trust you have hard copies of. This plan is, and Hannah unfortunately could not be here. She did say she was going to try to log in remotely, but she's also on a boat cruise with her daughter, so I'm not sure. She emailed me earlier to say that she was logging in, but I'm not sure if she was able to stay on. Roberta Wager, the co-trustee, is here tonight, who is Hannah's sister. The plan, as you can see, is
Can you pull that? We can actually pull it up just for the viewers.
Okay,
on Boo.
I can wait.
If you could pull that up while you can go ahead and start, but if Cheyenne could also simultaneously pull
Okay.
that up.
Sure.
It might make more sense if I wait till she has it. Oh, and I do see that our engineer is on the call as well, Jim
Great.
Dispel. I didn't know if Jim was,
Yep.
I didn't know if Jim was gonna be able to make it tonight, but I'm glad to see that he's here. He can correct any misstatements that I may make. Okay, so as you can see, the existing lot at 270 Hillside Street, which is at the corner of Hillside and Forest Street. The proposal is to subdivide that existing property and create the 3 lots that you see, A1, A2, and A3. They will all have the required minimum frontage on an existing way, combination of Hillside Street for A3 and A2. And A1 has frontage on both Hillside and on Forest. Mrs. Oldfield, who passed away last year, this was part of a plan that she had to create these lots for hopefully ultimately to be conveyed to her children. So this is part of that plan. My client lives at 270 Hillside. Her brother owns the property at 24 Forest Street. That's not part of this plan. And you'll see the lot behind him that has the wood barn is identified as not being a buildable lot, as is the area between that lot and the 270 Hillside property, where you see a garden shop and a couple of other structures that are intended to be raised. There's also, as you can see, a proposed access easement that will go across both lots A1 and A2 over to A3. But as far as the A&R endorsement is concerned, I believe the plan meets the requirements of the statute, Chapter 41, Section 81P, and is entitled to the endorsement by the board, hopefully. But I'm happy to answer any questions. I don't know if Jim wants to add anything or maybe respond to any questions that the members may have. Jim, anything that you feel I have left out?
No, not a problem, except for the fact that this plan that you're showing right now, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I have updated it. There was some town council modifications that were requested, and I came back in and brought a new Mylar with those 2 modifications that that was requested.
Okay.
Can you pull that up? Can we allow you to?
I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me. I thought it was going to be.
I can, if you.
Do you have the
permit me,
updated version? The Mylar is upstairs.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that Cheyenne told me earlier today that the Mylar is upstairs. The changes were very minor. They
Yes.
asked us to put the word frontage on the lot, so on lot A3, where it says 179.55 feet, we were asked to put the word frontage in parentheses there, which is what Jim did. And they also asked us to add the zoning classification under the notes. So we did that as well. That was the extent of the changes from Jim's original plan to what was submitted. I thought Cheyenne would have access to the revised one, but that was the difference between the original.
Is there a date on that plan?
Revised.
Right now in my emails, because I don't have access to the VPN, so I can't go into our server to get it. So I'm like searching through all my emails for it.
So you sent, is that the one you sent to us by email? It has the revised date of March 26th. Is that what you have, Jim?
It was,
or
sorry, Cheryl, I believe there was a later revision to the March 26th, but it was just to add those 2 items that I mentioned.
All right, so I don't think we have that actually.
I think Cheyenne was on vacation or was out of the office that day.
All right, so
would it be dated June 2nd? Probably.
Did you send that out? Anyone? I don't.
I can't tell you exactly what date it was.
Okay, I can,
Julia, if you can pull that up, that would be great.
I'm trying to pull it up here.
So while you're doing that, I do have a question, Barry, and nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well.
We know each other from our work lives crossing
Yeah.
years ago. No. You know that this property has a special permit, right, for their nursery?
There's a
Part of
nursery
it.
out back. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I just wonder, does this in any way affect that special permit in terms of there's certain properties that are referenced in that special permit? Would this impact it in any way?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
So the barn is on this lot and that barn is used for retail operations?
The barn shown over here. I'm not actually sure. Is that part of your brother's, if I may, Madam Chairman?
Oh, what are you?
The
The
barn?
garden
Yep.
shop,
Is the-
yeah,
Yep,
If referring to the
no,
to the
that one,
barn or the
Barn.
garden shop?
the barn,
The barn.
the barn.
Is that part of your brother's?
it's a
nursery?
separate lot, but it's Josh's, but it's used for the nursery.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
thank you.
I'm sorry, so the barn is not part of lot A2?
No, it's on a separate lot. And it's noted as being not a buildable lot.
Because
But the property
it doesn't have
behind,
Talking
frontage.
about the
behind
structure that says
24
barn, yeah,
yeah,
behind
It says
70 Hills.
tool shop in Woodbine, is that what you're referring to?
No, it just says barn.
I'm sorry, this one here.
Yeah, so that's used for,
This is part of 270 Hillside
Right.
Street.
but that's used for retail, right? For the nursery?
The barn? The
Yeah.
barn is,
This-
yeah, Maggie and Josh use the barn. But it's part of Hannah's property.
Okay.
So how does that work? Are they, I mean, can they not use that anymore? Does this affect any nursery operations
No, we're not,
whatsoever?
we're not changing any rights that anyone has in any of the lots.
So
Okay.
then there's where the garden shop is, that's another parcel, a non-buildable parcel then, right?
Right.
Should it say that? I don't,
It does say that, Cheryl.
I haven't been able to find that.
If you
because
can,
that-
if you follow the kind of the arrow,
Oh, thank you.
Oh, I
This is
see.
the new one
Okay.
here.
so if I may. Look, that's noted up here.
I see it now. Thank you, Barry.
I apologize, I didn't know what bond you were referring to.
No
I
problem.
know there's a lot of.
Buildable lot. So when we approve this, does it force them to raise the greenhouse? And what do they call that? Lab house?
The greenhouse and the glass house are both to be raised, yes.
Like
It's not so much, it doesn't force it per se, but that's the intent, is to raise those two structures.
Okay. I mean, it's none of our business. I'm just wondering how that works.
We tried to, I think, the intent was to try to give as much information as we could about what's out there now and whether things are gonna stay or not stay.
I don't have any other questions.
I mean, this is what the family wants to do.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, Barry, because of that special permit where it references parcels, do we not need to update? I know you're not our legal counsel,
Yeah.
but wouldn't we need to update the permit to reflect the parcels like by reference? Because the permit references the parcels.
There was a previous subdivision of that's why those back two lots, Cheryl, are referred to as lot B1 at 24 Forest Street and the one behind it, B2.
Okay,
That was a prior plan. So the special permit only applied to those two there.
got it. Thank you. All right. Thanks for
Yep.
clarifying.
Oh. Let's give it a minute to see. Anyone
Yeah,
else?
no, I'm good.
I'm sorry, Barry, can you just point out again the changes that from what we received to what's on the, they're very minor, I know.
Yeah, if you notice lot A1 it says 150.4, and then in parentheses, it says frontage. And then A2 has the word frontage. A3 did not have the word, so we simply
Okay.
added the word, and then we added the zoning classification on the
Okay.
notes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm all set.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
I'll make
Make a
a
mo-
motion to endorse the plan as not requiring subdivision approval.
There's a second?
You sure? Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck with your MBTA zoning.
Man.
Thank you, and that concludes our agenda for this evening. So
I'll
is
make a motion to adjourn.
there a second on that?
Second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Nice.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Oh,